There we go. Being 9 o'clock, we'll call UW Extension meeting to order with first order of business comments from the public for things on the agenda.
There's no one on
Hearing none,
Zoom.
we'll move on to approving the minutes of July 20th.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed, 4-0. Next, we got safety sharing with Tom Orchard.
To be brief today, but I was gonna talk about down power lines today. And, I got this card out and it says, if you have a power outage, you call this number. It's 30 years old and the number you call, you end up getting life alert for. So I guess the thing that I want to make everybody kind of aware of is that even if you got a maid in a refrigerator about the call for power outages or something like that, it looks like you gotta go to the phone all the time because nobody's updating those things anymore. And just power lines when they're down, stay away from them. And there's usually 3 lines going to your house. There's power, cable TV, and telephone. You say the telephone and cable TV won't hurt you, but what ends up happening, if the power line is laying on top of one of those, then it becomes energized. And there's this thing called step potential. When you step towards the power line, one foot has a different potential as another, so then you get current flow going through you, and that's when you end up getting shocked or electrocuted. So just the easiest thing is just to stay away from those things, call, get the people in, and if they're laying down across the road, just turn around. In the long run, it's the best way to do things because you get into more trouble than what it's worth.
Any other comments?
Is that short enough, Steve?
Well,
That's very,
fine.
down power lines is very apropos with what's going on in Maui, so
Yeah.
thanks for that update.
Not only Maui, but considering what, last week, when all of those trees came down because of the wind and the storm that came through, there were power lines down around me.
Yeah.
Well, the average person can't tell a cable line from a power line.
No, they
You
don't.
know, if you see a line on the road, you're best to avoid it. You know?
And then I see skateboarders going down and jumping across, and I'm like,
Oh, gee.
don't do that.
Yeah, if I see one, I avoid
You
it.
just pull out your badge and say, I'm the safety person. in the-"
Don't do that.
I don't know, Pierre.
Next, we got the chairman's report. I'd just like to say I went to PJI on Sunday and the fireworks were amazing. You know, I have gotten quite a few complaints, but I think that there was like 11,000 people that will enjoy this. And if I get 200 complaints, I guess they're outnumbered quite a few. So I would support it in the future. And if you have an opportunity to get tickets for the Sunday or the Friday night show, it's supposed to be like twice as long and a lot better than the Sunday night show. The only downside was 2 of the food trucks canceled, so there was only 3 food trucks there for about 3,500 people. I waited probably close to an hour for a scoop of ice cream, which was a little bit long. But the 4-H tent was good. I got my bottle of water in probably 2 minutes. So they did an excellent job.
How long was the show?
It lasted about an hour and a half, but then after that, they do their competition. So like when it's over, rather than you have 3,500 people heading for then they basically do the competition and they'll shoot up, you know, they'll tell you exactly what's in there. There's like 3 canisters, so there's 3 explosions, and it's gonna be purple, yellow, silver, and what color it's supposed to be. And then they'll shoot that up. So you know what they're actually shooting, where I had no idea when they did the performance, what type of fireworks they were. But every fireworks is basically designed different. So they actually tell you how the fireworks is designed and what it's gonna do, and then they shoot it.
Oh, wow.
So we stayed for about an hour for that.
Okay, interesting. As I was leaving county board, where do I go up County Road A? What am I seeing as I'm going home on Tuesday night, but the fireworks going off? And so I come and sit in the parking lot here and watch the fireworks. It was beautiful. Now, it didn't happen rapidly, one after the other. There was maybe 2 minutes between each one.
Yep.
But they were beautiful.
Yep, see, because the only nights that, like, when they have the public nights, that their show is like continuous. Every other night, it's competition. So they have to
Okay.
set up, you know, so like they'll fire one off and they basically, they'll tell you what the next one's gonna be while that person's setting up, and then they'll fire that one. So there's always a little space.
It's also it's also a trade show. So then wholesalers know what they're buying.
Fine.
By them describing, they can write down like, oh, I want to stock this in my store for people to buy. Yeah, it's really cool. When it was in Plover,
Yeah,
it was super
and
awesome.
you can still get tickets if you stop at the parks office, they're $10, otherwise if you wait until Friday, they're gonna be 15.
Okay, good, thank you. How difficult is it to get from the parking area over to Sunnyview?
You have to walk a little ways, but if you've got a handicap sticker, they have you can basically just park and walk on our cars and get to the show.
Okay,
So I don't know if you had anybody in your family that, then you can basically park right up front. My daughter's got a bad knee, she's getting a knee replaced in September, so she's got a ADA pass. So we were second roll in and we never waited to get out, we drove right out. We stayed about an hour after the performance, and then we basically just got in the car and they left, because they leave kind of periodic. Right at the end, there was a pretty good rush for people leaving. But if you just wait around a half hour, there's like nobody walking out. The rest of them are gonna watch it till it's over, which they can shoot till 1 o'clock. They usually end around 11:30.
okay.
So I stuck around. That was interesting.
Now, do they have seating? Or do you have to
You
take?
have to bring your own. They have one set of bleachers there. If you got there at 6 o'clock, you probably could sit in the bleacher, but a bleacher's hard, no back support. So I just bring a folding chair, especially if you're gonna park in a handicap.
Yeah.
It's not that far to carry your chair, and you got a nice comfortable chair.
Okay, thank you.
Just to note, the tent, I think, was run by the Fair Board.
Okay.
The 4-H we'd never
Oh.
be able to sell beer.
Yeah.
Being a youth program, so yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
the Fair
the
Board
Fair
that
Board.
ran that.
I just feel like I see some of the 4-H people working there.
I
but
think
they're on the Fair
Sarah
Board.
was there with the county and Joe Kennel helping out with the Fair Board, yeah.
Yep.
Well, you said he bought water.
Oh, I know,
Well,
there's some other stuff there
You didn't
too.
mention
Well, and that
water.
white donkey, he was hauling soda. They had a Pepsi
Yeah.
truck right there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had a cart and he had about 8 cases of soda on the cart, and that Rick from the parks, he had a ATV, and fast as they could haul that stuff to that tent, it was going out the door, It's like, wow, that's a lot of work, I mean, I wouldn't want to push 8 things, that ground ain't very smooth, that's just
No,
old farm field that's, kind of leveled off,
Yeah, I think they were able to do it like as a fundraiser for the Fair Board, so,
so it worked out good.
yeah, nice.
And then we'll move on from there to UW Extension Program and Educator Reports and Updates with Dana.
All right, so I'm gonna pass these around.
am I as good here as I am there, Doug?
Good. See, because this way and then that way.
It would be, you're right. Who, I'm discovering that I've got brilliant people all around. Thank
I
you.
moved that way, so to go that way.
Did you send me a copy of this one?
Yes, but not the second page, so. Okay, did you get one of these? Kate?
Yes,
I don't think Doug got one of these. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I know you're familiar with this format of a report. I usually send these out to you every month. And this is also what I share with our Leaders Association and other stakeholders in the community that want information on what's going on. So I'm just gonna kind of summarize and go over this, and we'll talk, of course, we'll talk about the fair and a couple other things. So, so I always start out with the state updates, Fall Forum and National Congress. These are statewide opportunities that youth can attend, and youth from all over the state that are in 4-H can attend these as well. Fall Forum is held at the Green Lake Conference Center. It's going to be, I think, the first weekend in November. And it's geared towards youth and adults. They attend workshops and trainings, and they kind of share ideas and collaborate and talk about new ideas that they can bring back to their clubs and their groups for 4-H. So it's kind of a fun weekend for them. And then National Congress is obviously a nationwide 4-H opportunity. We do have multiple youth that attend national type conferences and opportunities. This being one of them, where they spend 5 days in Atlanta. They get to network with kids in the 4-H program in US and Canada and Puerto Rico. And then they go to trainings and engage in workshops about leadership and global awareness, citizenship, things like that. So, not all of the kids, unfortunately, have the opportunity to attend the national trips that we offer. We typically choose delegates, and then the state will determine how many kids we can send, from each county. But what's kind of nice is our Leaders Association, so all the fundraising that they do with pizza sales and the dipper at the fair and the basket raffle, they actually will pay for up to 50% of the cost for the kids to attend these events, which some of them are kind of costly because there's airfare and, other things, hotel and all of that. So it's kind of a nice perk for some of them. Let's see, moving on down the line, the annual financial report and annual charter. So each year, all of our groups or clubs have to complete an annual financial report. So most clubs have a checkbook, savings account, they run their own finances. So it's kind of like an annual audit of their finances for their club. They turn in a report. The state kind of goes through them and make sure that they're doing everything in a good manner and keeping good records. And the charter renewal is, it's more like a questionnaire about what are the activities that the clubs plan on doing this coming year. So they may ask questions like, are you doing any high-risk activities? If so, what are they? They consider high-risk activities to be something like swimming sometimes because you need a lifeguard. It might be zip lining or something like that. But usually it's just a general plan of what's your club going to be doing and teaching you this coming year. And so each year they complete that, and it's kind of it's filed with the state. They're aware of what's going on then with each of the clubs as well. So those are all coming due this fall.
Could I bounce back up to the annual financial report?
Yeah.
What would a typical club have in terms of a savings account or a checking account? What kind of money are we talking about?
It varies. Some clubs have very little, a few $100s. Some clubs have a few thousand. It really depends on how much fundraising they do, how many activities they plan for. And so it really varies.
Okay.
And then larger projects like Horse and Pony, of course, they have thousands of dollars that. The Leaders Association being our biggest group, they have about 150,000 that they're, always kind of working with. So.
And is it the kids who are in charge of those monies with
So,
adult supervision?
Adult supervision, so they have officers with the clubs, they have a treasurer, there's always an adult supervisor, volunteer that helps with that. And so these audits, again, are a way to kind of make sure that they're doing things properly and all the money is accounted for.
Hey, my investment club, we audit every year.
Yeah, they have to do audits, club audits, so it's a good learning experience. I kind of feel a little bad for the youth treasurers because it is a heck of a job. There's a lot of stuff that they have to keep track of, so there's a lot of training involved with that. But they always have adults to help.
Boy, to have some financial literacy is huge.
Yeah, I mean, just check writing and having to balance a statement and yeah. So it's good experience for them. Any other questions about the charters or financial reports?
Well, I've got lots of questions, but I thought I'd wait until we get
Okay,
to ask.
that's fine. The next item is the UW Extension Educator Plan of Work. So each year, UW employees have to complete what's called a plan of work. And it's basically a plan of what do you want to accomplish over the next year. Our 4-H year begins October 1st, runs through September 30th. And that second sheet that I passed out, I thought I would provide you with an outline of what the plan of work really is. And I put my name on the schedule for actually sharing my 4-H plan of work with you in October. And I'll also bring some record books. We'll have a few of those. So I just wanted to kind of explain to you what the plan of work is, what it includes, and then you'll get that in detail of what we plan in October. So the plan of work includes a situation statement, and that statement identifies challenges that youth are currently facing and how our positive youth development programs can help meet some of those challenges through quality programming. So 2 focus areas this year that the state has put out and that I'm also adopting with our county are focusing on quality programming and expanding access as well. So we also include demographic information about the kids that are in the schools, because we cater to that age group, and identify areas of need for expanding access as well. Our target audience, that portion consists of, like I said, youth in grades 5K through 12. We create a plan of action then for retaining our existing 4-H members. We also have a plan for helping our brand new members kind of navigate the 4-H program if they're signing up new, or maybe they're only a year into the program. There's a lot to acclimate and learn about with the 4-H program. And then, of course, it also includes a plan to attract potential 4-H members that aren't currently members. Program logic. So Winnebago County 4-H, we're going to align with the Wisconsin 4-H program logic model. This is a statewide model that UW-Madison 4-H put out. It outlines areas of needs for youth. It defines some activities to help meet those needs, and then projects desired outcomes. So from there, overseeing larger state plan, I adopt those same things into the county plan. And again, you'll see this in more detail in October when we do this. Outcomes, that's simply just defining short-term, medium-term, and long-term outcomes that we hope to achieve. It also consists of an action plan. So that's going to define how we plan to reach our desired outcomes. It also will lay out and define areas of service for myself, I'm the program educator, and for Sarah, youth and science. And it's also going to lay out tasks and expectations for both of us as well. And then, of course, we have an evaluation plan, and that centers around the collection of data, which allows us to kind of review how we're doing. There's various sources of data that we can collect from. 4-H Online, which is like our registration and enrollment software. So we get data from there. We also get a lot of really good data from the Thrive survey, which I know I've shared with you the results of that Thrive survey that the youth take each fall. So those are our main sources of data. We look at internal actions and program capacity building. So this particular program or plan of work, it's actually going to be done in a 3-year cycle, starting with this year. So the first year is all about identifying needs, creating and implementing some strategies. Year 2, we're going to reflect on those results of year 1. We're going to adjust our efforts as we need to, and then we'll make updates to the plan. And then year 3, we're going to continue to reflect, make updates, and then we're going to look more at refining our approaches, concentrating on large programmatic outcomes, and then we'll document evaluation results. And then lastly, we kind of define some opportunities for professional development for Sarah and I as educators, and what we can take advantage of through state opportunities that UW puts out, and other community opportunities as well. So that's just kind of a definition or outline of what the plan of work is. And in October, I'll be happy to share what our plan is. So any questions on that at all?
Sure. When you say you've got 3 years, it's not just year 1, year 2, year 3, it's year 1, and then you go to year 1 and year 2, so that you are collecting the data for year
Yes.
1
Yeah,
and year 2 at that
yes,
point.
we analyze data each year. It's just that at the end of 3-year, it kind of gives us a big overall. It's kind of we started here, and here in 3 years is how we progressed.
You can see your trending.
Yes,
Yes.
trends.
Okay,
Very
thank you.
smart.
Sure. And this is all, based off of the Wisconsin 4-H plan of work as well. They have a large programmatic plan of work. So I'm basically aligning mine with what the state is wanting to see as well.
Have you found, here we go, Chris. Have you found that there are counties in the state that don't provide 4-H?
I think there is one county, is it Vilas?
Yeah, Vilas
Vilas
County
County?
currently has a different relationship with, Vilas County government does not have a contracted services agreement. However, Extension has a strong partnership with the Lac du Flambeau tribal nation. And so we have opportunities to engage with them. So we reach all of the geographies through our youth development programming. But in some of our counties, youth development programming may not be 4-H clubs.
Okay,
It may look a little bit differently or maybe adapted for the community.
But each county that has a 4-H educator, we're expected to do this kind of work. So all the counties are working on it, which is,
okay, thank you.
Here's my question would be, how did they handle that horse going down at the fair?
it sounded like the family that it happened to, the Black family, their last name is Black. They were very grateful for how well it was handled. I gave them a call and they said the fair board was wonderful, the veterinarians were wonderful. It was just a really sad,
Did
unfortunate
it break
event.
its leg or?
It broke its shoulder, I believe.
Shoulder.
So they were doing like a speed competition and its footing got messed up or whatever and it went down and
And the girl's all right?
girls, I mean, yeah,
The
they're
rep was
okay.
bad, but
Yeah, sad, but they're okay.
So they had,
situation.
yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't hear the beginning of that, and I'm thinking this is a horse. Did they have to put the horse down?
They did.
Ah,
Right in front of everybody in the stadium, so it's right.
Yeah, I think they kind of closed off, an area, so it wasn't, but yeah. A lot of people, I'm sure, saw it, so. Okay, moving right along, the outdoor classroom update. So fair is over, so now I can really direct my attention to getting that started, so.
Let's get our chicken coops built.
Yes. Madison, the horticulture educator here, we're gonna go and we're gonna stake out, we're gonna put cones out or whatever, so that the county parks can come in and just mow down the area that we're looking at. And then, September, we're hoping to, get the run built, the run in the coop. And then Zilgus will come in and mulch out that squared area so that it's nice and even for parks, just we can just mow around it, not have to do too many obstacles. So we want to get that built by fall. And then, I mean, December at the very latest, because come spring, we want to use our winter months to really plan kind of a grand opening of the whole, the garden beds and everything. And come spring, we want to get into using it and getting it working. So that's where we're at. I will reach out. I'll send an email to any of you that are interested in helping. The run we're going to build is fairly simple. It's a cattle panel arch. You build a frame. It's like an 8x16 frame. You put in 3 or 4 cattle panels that get bent, and then you do reinforcements on each end with doors. It's my husband and I can build one. Anybody can build one, so it's not a difficult, a difficult run. And then we have the coop, which is just a matter of putting it together, following the directions that we gave us and putting it together. So
we're supposed to follow directions?
yeah, well, yeah, I have the
That's
same
the
group at
last
home.
resort.
Yeah. But we could probably get it done in either a full weekend day or a couple half, days or something. It shouldn't be too hard. But I'll get an email out recruiting for help if anybody's interested.
Yeah,
so.
I have another friend that's interested.
Okay.
That's right up our wheelhouse.
Good.
And then we can start discussing the design of the second coop that's on wheels.
Oh,
It can be moved.
the tractor, the chicken
No, it's
tractor?
just it moves, so
Yeah.
the chickens get new grass all the time.
Yeah, well, we have to ask the county about that, I guess.
We'll work
If
on
we
it.
extend the area, I don't
You
know.
know somebody at the parks for it.
Yeah. A chicken tractor, yeah, I know, they like to free range. But anyway, so that's that with the outdoor classroom. Some programming updates. So we had a really full, busy summer with lots of programming. We had the photography workshop that kind of kicked off the summer that was really well attended. We had a watercolor workshop. We had Jessica Lamina, I think is how you pronounce her last name. She's a local artist. Came in and we had 22 youth coming in. They painted these watercolor moths and we saw many of them at the fair, which was kind of neat. Chick Quest was very busy. So Megan Newmark, as you know, was our part-time summer intern. I kind of trained her in the Chick Quest program and got her started off, and then she went and, kind of delivered that programming. Oshkosh Library, we went to the Oshkosh YMCA. That was a big one. That had like 36 kids in it. We also did one here at the Coughlin Center. And then those are the chicks that actually hatched at the fair. And so all of that went really well, well attended, a lot of interest. So it was really fun. And what's neat about it is the kids are amazed by it, but the parents are just as, amazed. It's pretty neat. Some of the older youth, like teenage type youth, we did a Mount Olympus trip just for fun, belonging, getting together with everybody. Megan and Sarah and a couple of our volunteers chaperoned that event, so they spent a day at Mount Olympus and water park and roller coasters and things like that, just had fun. Okay, fair recap, stuff you really want to hear about, right? So we had the 4-H wing. If any of you came through the expo, we kind of had that carpeted wing pretty much all to ourselves. I mean, we had the wood carvers there, and the Spinners Guild was in there as well. But each of the mornings, that fair, Wednesday through Friday, we did some activity stations for youth that came through. So some of the local daycare centers and summer programs will bring their youth. And we offered them crafts and science and different types of activities for them to do. And I just kind of summarized the numbers that we had come through in the morning for those activities here. The 4-H sewing youth did a fashion show Wednesday afternoon. And that was really fun to see. It was kind of an extension of their fashion review almost. The spotlight stage was really well attended, and we had 22 youth participate in that. So that was where youth could do demonstrations of projects. Some of them sang, some of them did presentations on some of the trips, the 4-H national trips that they went on. So it was kind of a mixture of all sorts of all things 4-H. So it was really nice. And then every Sunday at fair, each year we have an award ceremony, a youth award ceremony. So we recognize youth that, the key award winners, the scholarship winners, camp counselors, youth that were delegates for some of the state and national trips, little ones that are graduating from Clover Buds into the regular, 4-H program. So we recognize all of those youth in a ceremony. And that was, again, all the seats were full, it was fun. So. And then again, we had the chick hatching. We had 2 incubators, all but 4 of the eggs hatched, I believe. So we had quite a few chickens, little chicks there. A lot of people stopped by, and a lot of them got to see them actually come out of the shells, which was really fun. And then I went and I picked up, because we had chicks that hatched at the library. So I picked those up on Friday, brought them over. So we had week-old chicks and little baby chicks, and managed to find families to take them home, 4-H families that wanted them. And unfortunately, one chick went missing the last day of fair. Some kids came by and just stole a chick. But what do you do, But we had several requests to bring it back, and that was a lot, So we'll probably do it again next year. I might have a little better security.
We'll stay in charge of that.
Yeah.
Little bands, kind of things that have.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
I'll have to chip all the
Chip
chicken.
Chip all the chicks.
Chip all the-
You have some chick chips.
Other areas of the fair, the expo building exhibits were up. It was just loaded with really incredible exhibits if you had a chance to walk through. I think exhibits all the way around Animal and Expo were up this year, which was great. I know the Meat Animal Board, we have a number of our 4-H youth that are members of the county Meat Animal Board that do the auction. I think they had a record year as far as auction pricing that they got, the movies that came in. So that went well. I think the Meat Animal Board, shortly after the fair, they also called, I don't know if you're familiar with Bertie O'Rourke at UW. She's the livestock specialist.
Yeah, youth outreach specialist.
Yes, youth outreach for livestock. They contacted her, and she came down and did a meat animal ultrasound clinic with them. So they got ultrasound results of what is it, fat versus meat versus fat on their animals.
How many 4-H children participated in the fair compared to previous years?
Oh gosh, I don't have those numbers. Mike Donkey would on their fair software, but I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably 98% 4-H and 2% Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, FFA. It might even be less than that. It's predominantly 4-H.
I know the Legos, the woodworking and the computers, there was 420 entries, and that's probably one of the smallest exhibits of the fair. That's the one, I'm glad that's my first time helping set up a booth and getting it ready, and it was like I was overwhelmed with how many things I had to basically record and find the space for it and lay it out so it looked decent, we got there on a Monday and we started at like 11:30 and we left at like 10 o'clock Monday night. And we came back on Tuesday and we probably spent another 5 hours organizing it so that when it opened on Wednesday, it actually looked presentable. When we left Monday night, I just thought to myself, wow, I got nothing but a mess here.
I think the same thing happened with the Cloverbud area. There were so many Cloverbud exhibits, and I know I stayed back a little while that evening to try to just help organize, and then after a while, it was like, I'm going home. But the
I wasn't making
superintendents
no
were
progress
there.
on Monday, it was nuts.
Yeah,
Just an observation, I know years ago, the final day of the fair was packed with entertainment, demo derby, the beer tents were open till like 10 PM.
oh, okay.
And now it seems to be kind of a lost day because the fairgrounds shut down at 4.
Mhm.
Now, this maybe is a better question for Mike Tomke, but it's kind of bad, too bad, There's
think-
nothing going on.
I think it's the challenge of finding the volunteers to help keep it open longer. I mean, all organizations really struggle finding volunteers. And I know the Fair Board struggles with that as well. So I think that might play into it a little
Okay.
bit. Yeah.
I actually think there's 6 fair board members short, they can't even fill a fair board. So if you know anybody that's interested in being on the fair board, membership
you.
and
Yeah.
sign up.
So it's a
They're
challenge.
short-handed, and, that means that the rest of them have to pick up all the duties that the other 6 will be doing, And you watch at the fair, that they're there from 6 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock or later at night, That Mike is running around constantly, and, they had nobody to clean the bathrooms this year. On the first day, he was cleaning the bathrooms. I mean, it's not like he doesn't have enough to do. Now he's gotta clean the bathrooms on top of that,
Well, and they were clean.
Yeah, because he was cleaning them. I mean, I'm sure he found somebody the next day, but they didn't have any volunteers to clean the bathrooms on the first day, and he goes, he was cleaning the bathrooms.
Yeah. The year before they hired a cleaning crew, but maybe they weren't able to find one this year, or? I'm not
The
sure.
parks helped him a few times clean the bathrooms, and he was told that the parks doesn't clean bathrooms anymore
Okay.
during the events, so I think he was left to find somebody. But they did do a really nice job on parking. They had that senior parking, which I talked to people and they were just so happy to have that they didn't have to come all the way from County Road Y on an uneven ground. And it's not so bad during the day, but it's at night when you can't see,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden you're walking and you hit a 6 or 8 inch hole, and they have a little bit more fragile bones, if they fall and break a bone, it's a rod and pins, where, the young person falls, your bone's still growing and it'll grow back together and you don't have to go through major surgery.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. but
everybody I talked to on that was really happy that they like the senior parking.
Sure.
When I was there, I asked them, what do you think of the senior parking? Well, I'm glad they got this long time.
I think Mike will probably present their results maybe September, October. I know they kind of wait for their audit to get done, and that's, I'm sure he'll be at one of the next meetings and give more solid numbers on attendance and participation in that. So, but I know they also broke, I think, had a banner here. I mean, they, Saturday night, I think they broke a record. They had huge attendance. I know when I left Saturday night, cars were lined up all the way down to Jackson Street from Y. So,
Oh, wow.
yeah, it was really busy.
One of the things that I found really interesting is the fact that for all of the blurb you hear out there, you see these kids who are active participants and you say, life is continuing to happen in a structured, healthy manner. It's not all that stuff.
Right. There's definitely some good to glean out of all of the yucky stuff that you often only see on the news, and yeah.
Well, like the meat auctions at L&L Propane, I think they go to 4 fairs, but they budgeted $100,000 to buy animals. He paid over $8 a pound for one steer. mean, that's $12,000 for that steer, you know, the market price for a steer is about $270, so it's really good for the kids to put some money away for college, you know.
Mhm.
And
If they're putting it away, I hope they're putting it away.
yeah, and I found that to just really be super. How do you go about actually recruiting the youngsters who are involved in 4-H? Do you go to all of the schools in Winnebago County
So we
and touch
have,
base with them? Because I find that this is a place where you're not just doing dance,
Mhm.
or you're not just ice skating. You're getting a multidisciplinary
Mhm.
education.
We try to, we definitely have some presence in all of the different school districts within the county. Maybe not every single school, but we try to get at least one touch, if you call it, whether it's, sometimes during the National 4-H Week, which is coming up October, we'll get flyers out to every single school in the school district, and then they can add them to their newsletters and things like that. So we try to get something, we to hit every single school, we don't really have the manpower, I guess, for that, but we're making some headway, like with this plan of work, focusing on program quality and expanding access. My goal is to really get Sarah out in more of the schools and after-school programs with intention, and getting those kids enrolled in the program, because we can enroll them now. And that way, once they're enrolled, they can get continuous information from us throughout the school year. So that's one of the goals.
What I'm finding with my grandchildren is they're very focused in one area. And it's, you better by golly start when you're 5 years old. If you're 5 years old and you're starting in soccer, you'll at least be up to par with the kids when you're 9 years old and you're starting to do a traveling team in soccer. And you go, wait a minute, how does a child of 5 or 6 recognize what their desire is? And this seems to be an avenue to do that. And you're able to do it in one location at one point in time, as opposed to several different locations at several different times with several of your own children trying to get there.
Right. It's typically monthly meetings, for the clubs. And it's a challenge because youth are involved in so much. So it's all of their school extracurriculars and sports, and then adding 4-H on top of it. And unfortunately, more emphasis tends to be put on the school extracurriculars, the sports and things like that. It's an ongoing challenge, so.
But it's gotta be word of mouth.
Oh, yeah, definitely part of it is. There's a lot of, I would say, the community clubs that we have, a lot of the youth join because they have friends in the club and they say, oh, you should come and learn about.
We're having fun.
Yeah.
I think we should take it to the University of Fox Valley to get those numbers up where it should be.
Yeah.
In your spare time.
Well, Fox, in regards to, I guess.
Enrollment.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, I mean, overall, it was a really good fair year with, unfortunately, the incident with the horse. I really didn't have any other major issues that came up. I mean, the kids were well behaved and parents were well behaved. And yeah, I think it was just a good year. So, any questions about?
So yeah, one more quick question, and that is, if you join when you're 13 years old, are you still going to be able to function as opposed to having to start soccer when you're 5?
It depends on the project, I think. You can join at any age, obviously, but what's neat about 4-H is the kids can pick from a ton of different projects. So, and they can, take exhibits to the fair right away too. It's not a competition where youth are picked and chosen to start, I'm gonna say a basketball team, you got your starters and some bench warmers, and they all get to participate. They kind of direct their own participation in what they want to do.
I probably had like 20 birdhouses, and one kid was probably like 5 years old that turned it in, and he was really proud of that birdhouse, and you could see it was built by a 5-year-old. you know, so that when you looked at the ones that were built by the 12 to 14-year-olds, I mean, there was a difference, but by the time he's 14 years old, he'll build one like that.
Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, even when your parents helped you, he painted it, you know, so I mean, when you that young and you paint the birdhouse, it's not gonna look like a birdhouse that a 15-year-old painted.
Sure.
But he's learning young and he'll be a good carpenter by the time he's 15 years old if he stays at it. Some of these kids were just phenomenal. Some of them, this one girl made a toolbox and she made the hammer, the saw, and she even made a tape measure with a real working tape in it. You know, she basically got the ribbon to go to state. You know, I mean, the thing was gorgeous. You know, I don't think I could make it that good. And she was probably 15 years old.
That is nice with the judging, they take into account the age. So what, you know, what a 5-year-old does is not gonna look like what a, yeah.
Was there a with state fair going on and our county fair overlapping? Was there a problem getting projects down to the state fair that would have been here?
So what's kind of odd is with the state fair running at the same time, kids that are chosen for Judges' Choice Awards for state fair, they actually go next year. So they hold on to their projects for the whole year and they go down there the following year. Yeah. And we did have some projects go down this year from last year.
How about like for animals?
Animals, that doesn't work that way. So we don't have a ton of youth that go to state fair for the animal competitions, but we have a few. So it's a matter of, yeah, finagling schedules.
Okay,
I judge,
thank you.
I judge that area that used to be called Clover Buds, now they call it something else,
Yes.
beginners or something, because they're not all part of 4-H. And I managed to convince another supervisor who had never done it before, Colin Hanson. So he and I worked together, and for part of our time we were there, there was a deputy sheriff there. For another part, there was one of the queens with her crown. You know, you've got to get a tiara if you want to do this right. The kids were flocking to the queen.
Yeah.
And the children really do. They get so invested in their projects and want to tell you, you know, what they did with, for the most part. Some are very shy and keep looking back over for mom.
But did you have to try any baked goods? Did they make you taste them?
I did taste a couple things. Okay.
Yeah.
I took my life in my hands.
Yes.
But I think what I tasted actually was a non-baked peanut butter bowl. And I thought, how safe do I feel doing this?
Well, you were a good sport then. So that's good. And then just kind of moving forward on the report here, information on, I sent out, or I had club leaders pick up club surveys back in April, asked them to turn them in July. The surveys consisted of questions for the youth, like, what do you like about your club? What would you like to see happen? What, you know, those types of things, just to survey what their interests are. We're tabulating the results and then we'll get those back to the club leaders so they can use that for their planning for this year. And then I also recently sent out just an easy questionnaire to our club leaders, asking them where they would like my support. And there's 3 different areas: youth leadership, project education, or club growth. So I'm starting to get responses back from that. And so I'll work with each club individually based on what they would need support on, what they feel they need support on. We have our September, October newsletter coming out. That always comes out the beginning of the month. We have our August all county meeting, which is, we encourage all volunteers and youth leaders and of course Leaders Association to attend that. We'll be talking about the reports and charter renewals, re-enrollment coming up, which will start right after Labor Day, where youth can start to re-enroll or new ones enroll. And then I'm just going to provide them some education on new, not necessarily new, but different club types that the Wisconsin State 4-H program recognizes as youth in these different types of clubs can become official members. Community clubs, they've been around forever. You're familiar with those. Classroom and after school clubs. So we've dipped our toes in actually enrolling those kids beginning last year with the Chick Quest. That was the whole kind of premise with that program and getting youth to enroll, form mini clubs in the schools. And then military clubs, those typically take place in areas where there's military bases. So we're not going to see that here. And our interstate exchange youth are going to be making a 10-minute presentation on their experience. They had youth from the Pennsylvania 4-H program come and visit and spend a week here in Wisconsin. You guys are welcome to attend these all county meetings if you want to. But they're gonna do a nice presentation on all the different things that we did with those Pennsylvania youth.
Do our youth get to go out to Pennsylvania?
So next summer,
So,
they go out to Pennsylvania. So it's kind of a neat exchange program. Our upcoming events, which pretty much were listed in the report. We have our family banquet every year. Again, this report is given to the association, so I just made some suggestions to them about switching up their banquet. Not sure what they'll do with that, but that is what I have for you right now. Any other questions? Thanks.
yeah,
It's been a busy and fun summer, so.
it sounds like such a fun experience for a child, not only for a child, but for an adult as well, because you discover that it's so broad that youth have the opportunity of discovering what their passion might be. I had a question about the community foundation.
Oh, okay.
You guys have the community foundation. I found out about
We
that.
have an endowment. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tell me more about that.
So I'm not quite sure when the endowment was formed, but individuals or organizations, I suppose, anybody can make donations to the 4-H endowment. And the monies are for multiple things, expanding access, program support, future program security, and the Leaders Association, they're the deciding entity of if somebody requests money from the foundation, the 4-H youth, or if me or Sarah need extra money for a program that we want to develop, we submit a request to the Leaders Association. They make the ultimate decision on if it's funded or not. But it's grown. I mean, it's up to 100,000 now, so it's grown quite a bit, and they need to start spending some of that money. So.
And you're the person to help them do that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to convince them to spend a little money sometimes. So.
Who is in charge of that? I mean, it's obviously the Oshkosh Community Foundation, which is where that money is donated to. Are you guys in charge of choosing how that money is dispersed, or is the foundation, the Oshkosh Foundation, in charge of that?
We have an endowment committee that kind of oversees the different rules and guidelines. And then it's actually the Leaders Association board that makes the decision on requests or how it could be used.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is specifically 4-H, the leadership of
Yes.
the 4-H that goes about doing that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just thanks for all you do for the children of this county. It's a
Oh.
big job, and
Thanks. I appreciate that. I would like to share, and Chris, you could probably confirm or correct if I have the information not quite right. Our regional program manager, who's John Montmallon, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him at all. Apparently Winnebago County is leading the charge for last year for new enrollments, mainly because we introduced that Chip Quest program into the schools and we were able to enroll those youth. And what was the other programming initiatives or something to do with, yeah, so.
Winnebago County 4-H is the fastest growing 4-H program in the state of Wisconsin.
Oh, wow.
it's
Well
impressive.
done.
That's exciting to hear. Again, Chip Quest had a huge,
Mhm.
play in that. This next year will be more of a challenge because now we have to outdo ourselves.
Yeah.
So you won't see that huge, growth this year, but we continue to, try to grow the program.
Well, and one of the things to point out over the last year and a half, the Wisconsin 4-H program statewide has really done a better job of creating their enrollment system to make it simplified so that it's easier for the individuals in those classroom and after school 4-H programs to be enrolled. And so then we can, we know who's participating. And then as Dana said earlier, the emphasis is that if they're in our system, it's a much easier for us to communicate, or for Dana and Sarah and Ashley to communicate with the youth and the parents, whether it be by email or postcards in the mail or whatever opportunities. So then that's you bring them in, now how are we going to, keep them active, right?
Yeah.
That's the other
Yeah.
fun part.
And Sarah is so good at relating with the youth. I mean, that is where she shines. And surprisingly, we had a few youth sign up for fair entries this year, which we weren't sure that was gonna happen, but Megan and I visited the schools and she had her last year's, the fair crown on and stuff, and we actually got a few kids to enter at the fair, so that was
See,
fun.
get yourself a tiara.
Yeah.
That's the ticket.
So it'll be more of a challenge this year, but, the whole goal, I should say, the goal isn't just to enroll the kids for numbers, it's getting the education out there and introducing the program to them. But, we offer the education that Sarah does in the schools, it's free to the schools, we don't charge for it. And so kind of as an exchange of services or an agreement, I really feel it's important that we get those enrollment forms. That's part of the agreement. You get those enrollment forms to us before we come and actually do the programming. Because if you wait, you'll never get the forms. So that's kind of part of my strategy to make sure they get enrolled. So.
Do you find it difficult at the schools to get the parental input that you need?
The simple enrollment form actually doesn't require parental input because we come into the classroom. So the teacher in the school is already the custodial guardian of those kids. We're coming in as a supplemental program. So the parents aren't required to sign a form, which is nice. We send a letter home with the parents, so they're aware that, hey, your classroom is forming a little 4-H club. You may be getting some information in the mail, like a newsletter, or your kids may be getting some flyers sent home with them. We let them know, and we tell them you are not in any way obligated to have to do this, but you are more than welcome to join us in anything.
So even in the after-school programming, the staff or those folks who are supervising.
Correct, that's the goal. So the in-classroom clubs, I really stayed on top of getting those enrollment forms. Sarah will need to lead the charge for the after-school programs this year and make sure that those get turned in.
So it's not like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts where it's.
No, they're not forming troops. It's not like a in comparison to a community club.
This is just a regular school club.
Yep, it's a different type
Yes.
of club. It's a different,
Okay,
it looks different. It's a different type.
thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll go on to the Extension and Administration Department report with Chris.
Just a couple of updates I wanted to share, and I'm gonna go, on my bullets, I'm gonna go a little out of order because there's a sequence. One of the cool things about staff, and I hope there's enough wood. Winnebago County Extension is full staff. We have our full team on board with Stephanie joining us a month ago, and Stephanie Bowers is gonna introduce herself in next month. She is a 4-H parent and a resident of Brown County who they happen to be having their fair this week. So she is up to her ears, literally, in the goat barn right now, trying to herd kids and kids. So she, and this was one of those things that we knew well before. She's actively involved with that, and it's exciting. She's doing a great job. I look forward to you getting a chance to meeting her. So with having our full staff, we are continuing to try to optimize our space within our office suite, and some of it is just knowing with how both our regional educators, our regional ag educators work, and that they're, as I believe I mentioned in, last month, Stephanie's home office is in Outagamie County. So, her, the needs for individuals like her and me to have a drop zone, just a space where we can sit, but we're not necessarily, here 40 hours a week. Those types of things, we have the space, we just need to get all of the pieces in place. And then also utilize our cubes, and we look at them a little bit differently, still using them, but then also looking at some of our out of date and antiquated, ergonomically incorrect furniture and chairs and things like that, and get them, surplus or disposed of based on our, county policies, and, having spaces that work for, the work that we do. So that's kind of that's been an ongoing thing. I kind of mentioned that there was a large purge of older stuff. Actually, I don't want to say purge, it was actually surplus. So yes, I guess it was purged, but it was, every single piece of equipment that we surplus was purchased by somebody else. So, it didn't go into a landfill. It didn't go to solid waste. It's not sitting in a warehouse somewhere, rusting or collecting dust. So, well,
Did it go within the county?
Honestly, I don't know. And we're just happy that it went out the door.
Sure.
What the individuals want to do with it, and we use the surplus auction site. So, individuals can come from wherever they want. And I think the bottom line is, A, do they make the payment, and 2, do they pick it up and remove it from the site? So that's a cool thing that we're doing, we're continuing to do and make sure that we have what we need. And also freeing ourselves from things that were, from 15, 20 years ago, that we don't need multiple slide projectors, the old clicker, click things. We kind of use some different technology now. So I don't even know where you would go I'm sure you could get slides made somewhere. I'm not sure how you do it though. So anyway, so that's one of the things. The other, one other thing, looking at facility wise, is that, we are looking at, we are working, so Amy Hendrickson is leading the effort to, work with Justin and Parks to see if there is a, upgraded or a new, reservation system, to meet multiple, like both of our departmental needs for both internal reservations for, like, say, the Coughlin Center, but also external reservations. One of the notes, and those that are on the Parks Board know that the current software doesn't quite do everything. It doesn't work for what, how our, with these meeting rooms. There's one that Amy had found that would do absolutely everything that we need for the Coughlin Center, but there's a couple key pieces that it wouldn't work for Parks. So we know it's out there, we just have to find it, and then work with our committees and are appropriate to get the funding on board, because there might be they're like a one-time initiation, and then the annual fee, which we already are paying an annual fee for the software. But we're trying to make things like that both user-friendly for both our external audiences, but then we also have our internal audiences, our county departments and our committees and those groups that utilize especially our space. So we're trying to make things that are straightforward and are able to keep track so that we can provide information to, this committee, Parks Committee, finance, about how our space is being used, so that you have the information you need to either fund upgrades, make all of those financial decisions based on all of those needs. So we're trying to get you some data.
So in saying that,
Yes,
I am understanding that Extension is in charge of delegating the space to wherever it needs to be on any given day. Is that correct?
we manage, so since this building was built, Extension has managed the meeting room reservations in the Coughlin Center.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes. And if there is anyone or any department that feels they can do it better, we're happy to have conversations. Just because it does take, I mean, it does take a significant amount of time. And one of the pieces that does take the amount of time, and this is where the research of trying to find a reservation system that will work, is collecting the information that is needed to connect if there are updates or changes to reservations. Most cases, in almost every case, the Hoffman Center doesn't have, we don't have there's not a revenue, right? There's not but we do have some pieces, like, because of that, it's not like anybody can, use the room for a baby shower or something like that. It's our community, our external partners are our community organizations or, other partner organizations. Department of Corrections utilizes our space quite a bit for their training because they don't necessarily have that space, over at their facility, so we can provide that opportunity. There's not a revenue. So it's managing those pieces and to say, okay, what do you actually need? Where can you fit? And then being ready, what type of meeting are you having so our staff can be ready to help wherever possible.
Yeah, what I heard you say is, if you have a problem, don't whine to me, you do it.
Well, one of the things.
And that's fair,
Yeah.
because that's absolutely what I do in my family.
Well, so here is one of the things, and there is with the two different groups that we have our external partners, and in most cases, if there are any issues with the meeting room with our external partners, it's because the individual who is in charge of the meeting room was not the one that made the reservation and didn't get all of the actual information. So it might be a little of like, oh, well, we didn't know we were supposed to empty the garbage or, do those types of things. So it's just the communication piece. Or it's just in some cases a miscommunication, which happens. Our internal partners, on the other hand, sometimes present their own set of challenges because being internal, you're used to just walking into a space, using it and leaving, and then not having to worry about it. And especially, as a rule of thumb, we've never really provided high level of custodial service between meeting room like refreshes. It's not like we coordinate with maintenance or facilities for them to come in, and so this meeting is done, so they're going to come in, reset the room, get it right back to spanking new. That's just been one of those overall cost savings. So any amount of time that individuals will just leave, it either sits there or our staff has to do that. And that would be one of the arguments that part of me is saying is like that it's not part of their position descriptions to do, but they will, but we'll do that. And the other, we have a little stronger with our external partners to say, you don't get to use the rooms anymore. Go find another facility. And it really that hurts them. Whereas our internal partners, yes. And in very few cases, and in most cases, we've had these conversations. And so those instances are less and less and less, but sometimes it does happen. So, and good communication usually reduces that.
In general rule, they're supposed to leave the room like when they came to the room. The tables are the diagram on the wall, the tables go back to where they were. You can arrange them however you want them, but when you leave, put them back the way they were.
Sure.
One other interesting thing with the meeting room A and B, with the dividing wall. There's the large dividing wall, there's a large movable paneled wall. Currently, Amy and I, and mostly Amy, but I'm in the loop and we've been talking with maintenance. There is an issue with the wall and it doesn't work quite exactly right. So one of the awesome things is what was the year that I have a year when this facility was open. was it 89? Does that sound
Chris,
right?
this building opened in 97.
97?
Yep.
Okay. One of the other extension buildings, says 89. So anyway, so 97, so that particular, the wall, the company that manufactured and maintained that wall, they're not in business anymore. And so, so anyway, the facility maintenance did find somebody who's coming in on site to take a look, to see what and diagnose what the issue is and hopefully try to repair what we have. And this is a novel thing, so that there may be an, you know, if we want to have a dividable wall, at some time we may have to look at budgeting for that. Probably not including that in any type of capital improvement for next year, because we haven't diagnosed. But it's one of those things that it is nice to be able to split that and have two different and maximize that space. Otherwise, we have one big space. And so just kind of keeping you up to date there. I don't have any specific area, region, or state updates that other than what I've shared with you at last month's about our the state budget and the impacts or how that may or may not affect us. I'll be honest, we are in a very similar. I was in a similar boat as far as many of you, as far as the news that came out of UWO. You know, they were part of the UW system, but the four-year campuses are, you know, they manage their own ecosystem, so to speak. So still getting, how are there ways, in some cases it's more, are there ways that, you know, does Extension have educational programs that might be able to support individuals that might be going through a change in whether their financial, you know, pieces, and or working with our community partners to see if there are educational responses, but you know, nothing for sure, you know, nothing for sure yet as far as how we might be able to help support our, essentially our fellow community members, is where our impact probably would be. Happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
That's interesting stuff. Thank you.
Hearing no further comments or questions, we'll move on to UW Division of Extension Education Steering Committee updates with Supervisor Rand.
Thank you. The next meeting is September the 8th. And that is going to be an in-person and Zoom meeting. It's happening in Madison, and I believe it's at 10 in the morning. I like, just in case y'all didn't know, I like in-person meetings, so I'm planning on being there. And Chris and I met on Monday to discuss things that could potentially come before this. Now, what it is the Wisconsin County Association is working with Extension, the UW Extension Group, to try to find out how all of the counties can start to utilize the services and interact well together. That's the intent and purpose of this committee that I'm off to in Madison. And so Chris and I spoke. Thank you, Chris, for spending 2 hours of your day with me on Monday. And of course, just so everybody understands, I became tangential. And so Chris, fortunately, was very able to keep up with me with my going off in different directions. But we came up with several thoughts as far as where I go into this meeting and discuss what we're doing. I have to tell you that there are counties out there that don't seem to have the same way of communicating between the county and extension that we have. And so I found it very difficult to explain what I need from the county association, from Wisconsin County Association. And so that was one of the things that Chris and I were talking about. I learned a little bit more about how within Winnebago County we work, how the staff at Extension are not necessarily just in Winnebago County, but they are servicing Allegheny County, Calumet, Brown County, and how they're working all within those districts. One of the things that I did ask specifically was wanting to learn the different districts that Extension has, so that when I go in there, I can say, you know, are you guys working with the entire district that you're involved with? Because that seems to be something that happens here pretty nicely. I know that Chris is involved with Brown County, and what district is that? 6 for the Extension, whatever district that is, they are communicating well. And so these are the kinds of things that I think that the county association is wanting to learn about how to do it well.
Yeah, and one of the things I'll add, so Kay, there's, I sent an email with a link, the printable PDF map. I wasn't able to locate where the most up-to-date one is, so I'm working on that.
Okay.
As far as where our areas and, you know, our geography is. One of the things that was identified in the conversation is that the committee identified a set of points that there is some, I'm going to say friction or potential friction areas between our county governments and where Extension. And so one of the things, and that, you know, Kay and I discovered, is that some of the issues are because of the history of cooperation where Allegheny and Winnebago County, sometimes you don't really know where one ends and the other begins on the respective north-south borders, and shared, there is just some natural cooperation. And even if you look at where, you know, Oshkosh into Fond du Lac, sometimes that doesn't always, you know, right, there's kind of a smoother transition. So, you know, we were talking about how, you know, there are, you know, I'll use Dana's example, that, you know, we have some, Dana as an example, 4-H as an example. We have some extension programs that you need extension in order to have them, 4-H. If there is not an extension presence in a community, you don't have 4-H, because that is our branded program that we've been granted authority to do by the federal government, United States Department of Agriculture. We can do that. Then you have, where are those partnerships with our community organizations that are mutually beneficial? So that's where like the Chick Quest comes in, where it's beneficial to the schools because it is additional ways to meet requirements that their teachers either don't have the background or the time to be able to add a hands-on component. And the other mutually beneficial, as we talked about, is that then we enroll those individuals and try to make make them aware of future 4-H opportunities. So it's a both and. And then what we have another that you may not see as much, but we have another example of we have youth development staff who are working with partner organizations to make an impact that might be behind the scenes. For example, Mary Beth Walrabi is a community youth development educator, and she's housed out of the Allegheny County office, but she sits on the Fox Valley Housing Coalition, which impacts the greater area, and she brings and represents the youth voice or the young adult voice with this group that is working through housing concerns and housing issues, and trying to help bring that, because there may be some similar concerns about housing across across the entire population, but the need for senior-friendly or aging-friendly communities is very different than young renters who don't have a rental history. And then there's also where there's our partnership with our financial security educators, and you can, kind of think of some of the pieces that Todd's doing and where can direct education come in. So, so Dana's work, Sarah's work, and Mary Beth's work are all part of our extension response to youth needs and concerns in our community. And those are the different ways that we do it. And not every county has had that history and that background and are much more traditional as far as what happens, it stays in our county borders. And we know the benefits of, the benefits of being able to collaborate and share expertise, because it actually in the long run ends up benefiting our residents, here in the county. So that was just kind of a synopsis and some of the takeaways that we had. And it was kind of cool. And I appreciate the opportunity, Kay, to visit with you.
Yes, and if any of you have any thoughts that I need to bring to this group, please email me, let me know. And now that I know that, Tom, how to find out if that's really you emailing me, I may have a clue as to how that happens now.
Well, when you get done with this, try world peace next, because, this is an issue that's good as being identified, but it's getting people to talk together and to get some kind of resolution. I see a lot of trying, but no end game where you have a resolution. And it's what it is. People, like you say, I've done it this way, I always do it that way, and you gotta be open.
Which of course to me says you better start thinking about bringing younger people into it, because they have the expertise with computers that I surely don't have.
It's how you bridge that gap between all those people. I'm finding being a challenge, because not everybody wants a computer. And you got people that do, and how do you get through that? That's the challenge.
Any other questions for Supervisor Rand? Hearing none, we'll go on to announcing upcoming extension events at the county board meeting for discussion.
I want to thank Kay for doing that the last meeting. She had a little blip. You remember doing it?
Who knows? What are you talking about? Come on, Tom,
At the
I'm so
last-
tangential.
The last board meeting, we talked about the extension. I told
Yes.
people that.
Yes, and that is one of the things that I found really helpful when thank you very much for that. Yes, I do remember. And that was the extension newsletter that y'all are starting to put out
Yes.
monthly. And I am actually going to be taking that with me to say, look,
Yeah.
this is what we do. And it has to be between the county and extension. How do we go about, and when I say advertise, how do we go about advertising what is available and that everybody has access to, not just those who have stuff. It's everybody has access to this.
And thanks for, again, in this,
Thank you, Tom.
the newsletter that should hit your inboxes Tuesday morning has a sprinkling of updates and opportunities for individuals and anyone that you wish to highlight. Especially, I know Mia has been working with the grant writing basics workshop. That's a virtual workshop, so that's one. You will see this is the benefit of the partnership with our regional educator. You see Kevin is having silage dry down events, and there is opportunity in this year. They are available, or the sites are in Outagamie County, and Winnebago County residents can participate. And as things grow, there will be opportunities for there to be potential for there to be individual sites in Winnebago County. Kevin has been working with some local, farmers, to do some research, or will be doing research plots in, Winnebago County. Kudos to the whole team for pulling that together. That's exactly what the intent of this is, to be able to give, to be able to communicate what we've been doing a little bit, but more so what's going on and how people can engage with us.
Well, and not only that, but as I get it, I can then advertise what is available. And when I say advertise, I can email that on to other people to say,
Yes.
hey, look what's going on. And I think that one of the things I certainly had no idea of before getting on the county board is what happens at the county level. And it's huge. Going to the fraud school, going to cybersecurity, coming and talking with individuals about the stuff that happens. Hearing you talk about the highway department, hearing Tom talk about We Energies, and it's enormous what happens here. And all I can do is say thank you to each and every one of you for helping educate me.
And anybody that has any comments at the meeting, like a lot of times, if I have something else I'm talking on, I usually want to talk on one thing, because they don't want us to spend 5 minutes, they want us to spend like 2 minutes. So it's like, some months I have other things that to me are more important that I want to talk about. So if I don't talk about something and you don't hear me bring up the extension, anybody can feel free to jump in there, and, I just don't want to basically get where every month I'm talking for 5 or 10 minutes, because then pretty soon everybody thinks, well, he's just gonna rattle on about this and that, and, I'm not a salesman.
Hey, Steve, I'll hop in there anytime.
Okay, sounds good.
The thing is that the county provides so much information. Getting at the right people, and the phrase, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You could be out there, you could be talking about that, and yet the people that need it will say, well, I don't know anything about it. And that's the challenge that we have. How do you bridge all this stuff and get them to do it? I mean, I quit complaining about my taxes because I know where my taxes go, and I complain about more how they're being spent and the justification that goes with it, because it's helping a lot of people. But there's a problem that we're having right now, and that's just giving things common sense. We have a lot of wasted time.
Yeah, and if you watch county board members, if they're interested, then they're paying attention, otherwise they're reading something in their pamphlet, they're playing on their phones, So I look around, and when I see them basically not really paying attention to what I'm saying, apparently I'm boring them, so I just go off.
And what's interesting is being in the second row, you can see all of that.
So, yeah, anybody that has any comments, if I don't happen to speak on them, feel free to chime in, because I try to just tackle one topic, and if I get their attention for 2 minutes, I'm gonna lose their attention by 4 minutes, so it's like, why bore them? I might as well just, let somebody else move on. But if we each talk for a couple minutes, usually they'll at least give you the acknowledgement to see what you're talking about. And then if you're boring them, they'll kind of go off into their own. So feel free to jump in. Next, we got committee comments.
I just had a question on this, paper we have that starts out with health and well-being. Food-wise, Hannah Phillips, is her email address actually at wisc.edu? It can't just be at wi.
Oh, that must have gotten inadvertently cut off. Yeah,
And
it's the same as all the rest,
Okay.
wisc.edu.
Okay.
Yeah, and Hannah is a regional, educator, so sometimes she doesn't, always have Winnebago County specific things, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean she's not working to impact, the Winnebago County residents.
No further comments. Our next meeting will be September 21st. Not entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
is gonna be